to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. A few passing thoughts in reference to Sky Nicholson's upcoming fight with Sweden's own Lucy Wildheart on the undercard of the upcoming Katie Taylor versus Chantel Cameron rematch, and what might happen, what might take place beyond that fight if Sky Nicholson takes care of business. I will say that Lucy Wildheart, that's a nice acid test. Lucy's been in there with some good fighters, some decent fighters.
She's coming off a loss to former unified super featherweight champion Michaela Mayer, a fight that took place up there at lightweight. This fight with Sky is taking place at featherweight. Sky Nicholson is a naturally smaller woman than Michaela Mayer.
A naturally smaller woman than Estelle Mosley. That's saying that Sky Nicholson is a naturally smaller woman than both the women that beat Lucy Wildheart, that Lucy has only ever lost to lightweights. So how will she fare at featherweight? On the predication that somehow Sky Nicholson manages to stay unbeaten, manages to take care of business. What happens after that? What happens beyond that fight? Because this fight is for Sky's WBC interim title, which lines her up for Amanda Serrano. Should we expect to see the Serrano fight? And given Amanda Serrano's stance, that she wants to box for 12 3-minute rounds moving forward.
And the WBC is not supportive of this, that they will not sanction a women's boxing match for 12 3-minute rounds. It's conceivable that Amanda and Sky won't fight. And if they don't, the title, the WBC title, it might go vacant, at which point Sky will be elevated to full champion.
Might seem convenient for Sky to become a champion in this fashion, and that may be what comes to pass, but there's getting the belt, and then there's keeping it. You will notice in the WBC's ranks that former champion Erica Cruz is ranked at number 2, but Erica's going to be fighting Mayerlene Rivas for the WBA title, so rules her out. At number 3 is Lucy Wildheart, who Sky's already set to fight, but ranked right behind her is former IBF champion Sarah Mahfoud of Denmark, the World Boxing Council's silver champion at this weight. And it's conceivable that beyond a Lucy Wildheart fight, she may end up fighting Sarah Mahfoud.
Sarah is more experienced than Sky Nicholson. She has fought more formidable fighters than Sky Nicholson has fought. She's actually been in there with Amanda Serrano. She went the distance. I think she can give Sky a decent fight.
Ranked right behind Sarah Mahfoud is Sabrina Perez of Argentina, but Sky has already been there and done that with Sabrina. Ranked right behind Sabrina is Argentina's own Brenda Karen Carbajal, yet another fighter who's been around the block, is experienced, and could give Sky Nicholson a run for her money. Brenda is ranked at number 6. Canada's own Carolyn Veer is ranked at number 7. An unbeaten up-and-comer who I've been keeping my eye on. A formidable fighter.
The idea that Sky is just going to be elevated to WBC champion based on an impasse between Amanda and the World Boxing Council, that it's smooth sailing for Sky thereafter.
It's not the situation. Unbeaten up-and-comer from France, Amina Zidani, is ranked at number 8. Former world title challenger and southpaw of Germany, Nina Menke, she is ranked at number 9. And America's own dark horse, a dangerous fighter who I think has all the makings of a champion, the United States' own Tiaria Brown, she's ranked at number 10. And essentially what I'm getting at is, even if Sky manages to finagle a situation where she gets to become a champion without fighting Amanda,
she's not out of the woods yet. I say it all the time. Irrespective of Amanda and whatever Amanda decides to do, the women's featherweight division, in a general sense, is one of the deepest divisions in all of women's boxing. There are plenty of other fighters that are credible, near, and apparent threats to Sky Nicholson. More so if she becomes a champion, because that title, that's a target on her back.
Look closely. Down there at number 12 is Daniela Romina Bermudez, multi-weight champion from Argentina, who I think would be a near, apparent, and credible threat for Sky Nicholson, more so if she becomes a champion. That's a beacon to any formidable fighter and every unbeaten up-and-comer.
Buddy, stupid. You would sooner win a title from Sky Nicholson than you would Amanda Serrano. You don't stand much chance of taking Amanda's belts from her in the ring, but Sky...
Nothing against her, but I'm fairly confident that most people view Sky as being more beatable than Amanda. So if she really wants a belt, she might get one, but you know how the old saying goes, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. what happens after that.
I hope she's ready.
Men's light heavyweight, cruiserweight, influencer news. Tommy Fury is weighing his options. He's very eager to eventually challenge for a title. Somehow I don't believe him. I don't believe in that he will gamble his unbeaten record against actual boxers when he can make so much money against non-boxers like he has been doing. Light heavyweight cruiserweight prospect Tommy Fury is being called out by a variety of fighters who rank well above him, and he's even being challenged by a world champion. Fury, the younger brother of WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury, has received an enormous amount of exposure from his crossover boxing matches against social media influencers Jake Paul and KSI. Since the start of the year, Fury handed both Paul and KSI their first defeats as boxers, and I think the disconnect is that the exposure that Tommy got from those fights now makes him a draw, now makes him a ticket seller or an influencer of any kind. I think you'll find that if it's just Tommy without those guys, if it's just Tommy,
It's not that people don't know him, don't know who he is. They know he's Tyson Fury's younger brother. They know he was on Love Island. They know of him. But how many people would pay to see him fight? Just him.
Fury has several options in front of him, but the biggest financial windfalls would likely come from facing Paul or KSI in a rematch. On the other hand, more seasoned pros have been pushing to face Tommy as well. I don't recall this happening before, where world champions are wanting to fight people that are right at the bottom of the pecking order. I'm just happy to be in this position. Obviously, we all know why he would take that fight, but I am going to make the most off of the crossover scene while it is here, Fury told the Daily Mail. Let's not beat around the bush. It's a lot better financially than conventional boxing, and the disconnect is that Fury could make it in conventional boxing. The purses that he's been getting, his last two fights, from the KSI fight, from the Jake Paul fight, are only made possible because of the celebrity of someone else, the celebrity of those social media influencers. Without them, Tommy don't make it to seven-figure paydays in the conventional world of boxing.
He doesn't have the talent to make it that far.
Let's not beat around the bush. It's a lot better financially than conventional boxing. The money that these fights are generating, conventional boxers will never see in their careers. I'm sure Jai Opataya can box and win all the belts, but it wouldn't accumulate to a fraction of what these crossover fights can generate. I'm definitely going to make the most of it whilst it's here, but at the end of the day, the plan will always be to challenge for that top strap title. I wouldn't feel right in myself leaving the sport if I had not challenged or even tried to win a world title, and I do believe that I will win one because I have seen far worse people win one. Well, I haven't.
I saw Jai Opataya calling him out. Ring Magazine IBF champion Jai Opataya, who I think would pulverize Tommy Fury, batter him.
Tommy's not a good fighter, and it needs to be said that making it through conventional means and conventional boxing, that's not actually an option for Tommy Fury. That if he aspires to continue making seven-figure paydays, well, he better find more social media influencers to fight, because in terms of conventional boxing, he'd never make it to the point where he fights for a world title. He might get beat fighting for an area title, let alone a world title. That this was the only way for a boxer like Tommy to make that kind of money. It's boxing non-boxers and using their celebrity to finance his big paydays.
The only way for him to keep getting those big prices that he's been getting is if KSI and Jake Paul want to give him the satisfaction, want rematches, because if they don't, then he's up shit's creek without a paddle. You already boxed the two biggest social media influencers in influencer boxing. It's all downhill from here, and if by some chance they don't want to fight you, they don't want to run it back, what are you gonna do?
Gotta think outside the box. This is not the conventional boxing scene. You winning those fights with those social media influencers is not a transference of marquee value. It's their celebrity that sold the tickets to those fights. It's their celebrity that brought eyes to them. And they're still the celebrities. You're not. You're just Tyson Fury's little brother. The guy who's not good enough to make it in real boxing, so he's got to settle for influencer boxing. That's what Tommy is, and it needs to be said.
What do you think, that because you won those fights, now you're in the driver's seat? You're in control?
You're not. And if both KSI and Jake Paul decide they don't need to run it back with you, they'd rather move on, fight somebody else, maybe fight each other in what would be an even bigger fight than any fight involving you.
And don't forget that he got rid of Frank Warren. Frank Warren is not Tommy Fury's promoter anymore. He's flying solo so that he can keep as much of the cash he makes to himself. But let's just say that Jake and KSI, they decide they don't need a Tommy Fury rematch. They can fight each other.
Jake's already had a rebound fight. He fought Nate Diaz, and he has another fight coming up. I'm sure KSI can find somebody to keep busy with. If they decide to cut Tommy out of the picture, what are Tommy's alternatives? Boxing journeymen at the Copper Box or at the York Hall? Guys who actually are boxers. I don't think he wants to do that.
No, he doesn't want to do that because he might get beat, and it would be for a lot less money than what he's been making riding someone else's wave.
I can't say as I blame him because he was never going to make it in conventional boxing, but even in unconventional boxing, there are limits. There aren't that many social media influencers out there that can consistently get you those big places. So at some point, the well is going to run dry there too. And finally, in men's super lightweight news, Teofimo Lopez on Murky Future. I bring too many demands and don't get nothing back. We want to weigh our options. I don't know what those options are, but I do know that the contract with Top Rank is still active and actionable. They are still his promoter. Asked to explain why he decided to forego the December opportunity, Lopez gave a pointed, if somewhat cryptic response, seemingly directed at his longtime promoter. I bring too many demands and I don't get nothing back. Lopez told BoxingScene.com early Friday morning outside Madison Square Garden in New York City after the conclusion of the junior middleweight bout between Callum Walsh and Ishmael Villarreal. Lopez added that another significant factor in putting his prize-fighting days on hold is his son, with whom he has spent scant time. Lopez has had much...
He's got marriage troubles. He's still got those.
But it's more than that. Monetary reasons for not fighting. Lopez said, I have my son. You notice something about today's young American fighter, young American boxer. They're all knuckleheads that think the world is supposed to be their oyster after a few solid fights with a few solid opponents. I think that adequately describes Teofimo Lopez, who's very young,
He is.
very talented, and very accomplished for such a young man, but also very headstrong. And I think a lot of his problems, they're self-imposed.
He brings them on himself.
Lopez continued, it's more than that. Monetary reasons for not fighting. I have my son and I haven't spent time with him, to be honest, you know? He's about to be 2 next week. With that being said, I've only spent 9 months with him. You know what I mean?
What I know is that Lopez is a good, young, talented fighter, and he's marketable, or he could be, but he hasn't reached his full potential, yet he acts like he has.
What happened with George Kambosos over a year ago was unnecessary. What happened didn't have to happen if he would have listened to the people at Top Rank and did the fight at the price they wanted to do it. He lost a year or over a year on that thing, chasing a few more dollars, when if he would have got it out the way, he likely would have beat George Kambosos and moved up on his own terms instead of moving up off a loss and having to rebound. When asked if he planned to fight next year, the fighter demurred. We don't have no plans right now, he said, but you're the champ. I know, Lopez said, but we don't have no plans right now. Lopez then said he simply wanted to weigh his options before committing to his next fight, saying he was not afforded the opportunity to do so after he defeated Vasily Lomachenko in 2020, likely because George Kambosos was his mandatory challenger. He had to satisfy him in a timely fashion. He had to fight him. He had to deal with that, whereas currently, he doesn't have any mandatories in the queue, not yet. He's not under any orders by way of the WBO.
In the WBO's last set of updated rank standings, former Top Rank alum Arnold Barboza is ranked at number 1. Former unified super lightweight champion Jose Ramirez is ranked at number 2. Any one of those guys could go on to become his mandatory challenger. It hasn't happened yet, but it could very soon.
While he waits and mulls over his options, he's not at liberty to wait forever. Lopez continued, but you're the champ. I know, Lopez said, but we don't have no plans right now. Lopez then said he simply wanted to weigh his options before committing to his next fight, saying he was not afforded the opportunity to do so after he defeated Vasily Lomachenko in 2020. We want to weigh our options. We couldn't weigh our options when I became undisputed the first time, so I just want to weigh my options this time. But while you're passing time doing that, a mandate from the WBO, it's right around the corner. It's bound to happen, so you have to make a decision.
You will recall that Devin Haney filed some kind of petition or something like that to potentially fight for the WBO if it were vacated. And it was at that point that Lopez decided he wanted to keep the belt. He wanted to hang on to it. He would not part with it so easily. Hanging on to it comes with responsibilities.
Lopez said he was talking to other entities about possible fights, but he ruled out Matchroom Boxing, the British outfit led by Eddie Hearn, as one of them. Lopez and Hearn were recently enmeshed in a feud on social media. I'm talking to everybody. No, I don't deal with Matchroom or those kinds of guys, nor DAZN. I'm my own promoter. What he has against Eddie Hearn, what he has specifically, it's almost like he's blaming him for what happened with George Kambosos when you didn't get robbed on DAZN.
You lost.
You lost fair and square. Everybody saw it. And while most people would likely pick Lopez to win a rematch with George,
don't make yourself out to be some kind of victim because you're not. That fight should have never taken that long to make, and while it took so long, you outgrew the weight, you got sick, and made yourself available for George to beat you. It's your own fault. Not Eddie's, not Matchroom's, not nobody's. It's yours.
saying that he's his own promoter is likely his way of saying he's not comfortable with Top Rank promoting him. You're at odds with them too.
So you're at odds with Top Rank, you're at odds with Matchroom, you don't like them either. It seems that the only people you're not at odds with are people that haven't worked with you yet.
It's because you're the problem. Not the people at Matchroom and not the people at Top Rank. The people at Top Rank have been in this industry for over 50 years. Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Rock Newman, Don King. They've been here for all of it.
All of them. Names that have come and gone. Boxers that rise and fall. They've seen it. And you don't last in this industry for that amount of time unless you know what you're doing. Your problem is you think you know more than they do.
What's the expectation? What is Teofimo expecting to get paid? It would have been beneficial to him to get in one more fight before this year was out to continue to build on the momentum from the Taylor fight. Now, that momentum has all but dissipated while you insist that you should be paid like a star.
You're not there yet, and you're not gonna be because you keep getting in your own way.
He's his own worst enemy, this kid, but if I had a nickel for every pugilist that thought he's the best thing since sliced bread, it just is what it is.